Hey everybody, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe. Today, we want to talk about the new U.S. national citizenship database that's being developed, because quite frankly, I think this is worrisome. Now, hear me out here, and I'm going to go through my default preamble that I always go through on segments like this, which is cybersecurity is agnostic to politics, but we're not immune from it. And so I don't care what your political beliefs are. This should be concerning to everybody for various reasons. Now, NPR broke this story, but it's basically been caught up and picked up by absolutely everybody. And here's what's going on. For the first time ever in the history of the United States, the Trump administration is the administration that's doing this, has now built a searchable national citizenship data system. Now, this tool, which is being rolled out in phases, is designed to be used by state and local election officials to give them an easy answer to ensure only citizens are voting. But it was developed rapidly and without any kind of public process, and some of those officials are starting to worry that this could be used for other things. Everybody wants secure elections. Nobody's going to disagree with having secure elections on that, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this is one step that the United States has never taken, and quite frankly, never has had to take before. Not that we really need to now. And again, we'll talk about this. Now, for decades, voting officials have noted that there was no national citizenship list to compare their state list to. So, in order to verify citizenship for their voters, they either needed to ask people for a birth certificate or something like a passport. That, for the record, could disenfranchise millions, especially lower income voters that don't necessarily have these kinds of things, or use a complex patchwork of disparate data sources. DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, in partnership with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, has recently rolled out a series of upgrades to network and federal databases, and by upgrades I would say changes to network and federal databases to allow state and county election officials to quickly check the citizenship status of their entire voter list. They are distinguishing, though, between U.S.-born and naturalized citizens, which is an interesting flag in my brain, and also using data from the Social Security Administration as well as immigration databases here in the United States as well. Such integration, for the record, has never existed, not in the history of this country, and so experts are calling it a sea change that inches the United States closer to having a roster of citizens, something that we've never done before. A centralized national database of Americans' personal information has long been considered a third rail, especially by privacy advocates and political conservatives who have traditionally opposed mass data consolidation by the federal government. Usually the conservative side of the House was worried about having a national database, especially of firearms, that could be generated and created and therefore identify every citizen that had firearms, which obviously then could be taken away from you. The point is that a national database like this could be used for that, or a whole bunch of other things as well. So let's talk about the issues here, because what's alarming is that the development of this magnitude was already underway without our knowledge. There was no public process that was put into place for this. When federal agencies plan to collect or use our personal data in new ways, there are procedures that they are required to follow beforehand, including giving us, public, the notice that they're doing this. This didn't happen here. Many other questions about the new system remain, including which states plan to use it and how, what sort of data security measures are being taken, to ensure the security of all of our data in one massive database, how trustworthy this tool is going to be. In other words, can it be manipulated in some way, shape, or form, turning, let's say, a naturalized citizen into, let's say, a non-citizen? Very possible. Whoever owns the data. It's also unknown what the federal government plans to do with the voter records after they've been run through the system. Now, what I don't understand, though, just coming from a data privacy wonk side of it, again, don't care about the politics side of it, is that there are already checks in the voting system without needing to build a national database of citizens. So consider the following. Everybody that registers to vote already must swear under penalty of perjury that they are a U.S. citizen. The consequences for non-U.S. citizens include fines, prison time, and deportation if they try to vote. Officials have gone on record saying that deterrent is why cases of ineligible people casting votes are incredibly rare. The George W. Bush administration had a massive study on this of hundreds of millions of votes, and they could barely find any kind of malfeasance in the system. This is basically becoming more apparent as more and more states devote resources to uncovering the few people that slipped through the cracks. We saw this in the aftermath of the 2020 election, basically looking for this fraud and malfeasance, could not really find it in any real way. Now, I know there are conspiracy theories out there that are going to look at me and think, Nick, you're an idiot, or whatever it is, so be it, but I have yet to see actual verifiable evidence of that, and I'm happy to look through any data. I sat through Mike Lindell's Cyber Symposium specifically to see if he had the actual data that proved it. I live tweeted all 3 days of that. If you don't believe me, go look. It's an objective look at what they were trying to present. Research, for the record, has also shown that when the rare non-citizen actually does vote, it's usually not because they have an intent to commit fraud, but they misunderstood the eligibility rules. And that is true. I have a driver that takes me, like a car service, and it's usually the same driver that takes me to the airports when I'm traveling here in Chicago, and he's a naturalized citizen. He came over, with his parents and became a citizen, in his teenage years, and hadn't voted before because he didn't understand the system. Nobody really explained that to him. He was too busy learning English, right? He didn't realize you had to register to vote. He thought he could just show up. So these things actually do happen. A national citizenship list and anything resembling a national voter registration list has been a controversial idea for a really long time. So the Trump administration is essentially wading into uncharted water here, centralizing all Americans, apparently distinguishing between natural and basically born here citizens. And so that's an issue, I think, in the long run. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service, which is under Department of Homeland Security, is managing the tool. Now, one of the reasons why this may be an issue is a recent Supreme Court ruling, literally a few days ago, that basically punted the birthright citizenship issue. And so are we going to see a ramp up of denaturalization of naturalized citizens, meaning those that immigrated here, went through the process and became citizens? Where does it start? Where does it stop? Where does it end? I don't know. And these are things, when we are centralizing data, as a privacy wonk, a privacy expert, deeply concern me, because that data could be used for legitimate things like verifying a voter roll, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but could be used against people in some other way. Or if the data is manipulated to satisfy a means to an end, that's a very real possibility too. And that goes for any administration that would have access to this, which is why we've just haven't done this before. So we'll see what happens here, but I think this is concerning, and we'll see what happens. And hopefully this is all, unfounded worry on my part. Hopefully it's not needed. Hopefully it will be safe and it will be secure. But Doge was basically run by Silicon Valley type people, Elon Musk, et cetera, et cetera. The basic motto, aka Mark Zuckerberg, is move fast and break things. And that's the last thing I would want to do with my sensitive data, whether it's my tax data, my personally identifiable information that would allow somebody to have an identity theft scam on me, and on and on and on. So here we are, here we go, but it looks like we're getting a national database of citizens, good, bad, or ugly. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, please, please attempt to stay private, secure, and informed. Take care.